Hello, my name's Kenny Mammarella-D'Cruz, and here are a few videos that will explain to you what a men's group is, how you can run your own men's groups, gives you the ground rules, the check-in round, and pretty much everything you need to get going. If you wish to know more, come to my website www.mensgroups.co.uk, come to an online group, come to a live group in London, or come to my How to Run a Men's Group one-day workshop or ongoing training. With some groups and organisations, it's more about we are the safe people that understand you and it's okay for you to be yourself here. But out in the big bad world, you have to put up your defences and sell out and do this and do. That's not the way it works for me. For me, the object of the exercise with the men's groups is to build a bridge from the best of who the man is in the group into his daily life. Let me tell you about setting up the space. I hire a neutral space, I hire a room. I set the chairs up in a circle with nothing in between us apart from a candle. And I generally have a maximum of 9 people. Otherwise, there's not enough space for everyone really to speak and be heard. I usually have 15 minutes before a group starts so people can arrive, they can take their coats off, they can go to the loo, whatever, and we start bang on time. Once everyone's agreed on the ground rules, I ring my bell for 2 minutes of silence. Some men use these 2 minutes thinking, oh my God, what's going on here? Why is everyone sitting with their eyes closed? Some men just simply breathe and they listen to their thoughts or their fears or their paranoias or rehearse their lines of what they think they might talk about. I generally let go of my day. Whatever it is I've been thinking or doing or stressing about or fantasizing about, that just gets moved aside so I can be present and be aware of myself in the moment, in the room, ready to take part in a group. Okay. So next comes the check-in round. The object of the exercise for the check-in round is for everyone's voice to be heard, whether they check in with every question from the list or whether they just say pass. For me, it's important that everyone's voice is heard and they have permission to speak. The 12 questions in the check-in round are: number 1, your name; number 2, how you feel right now; number 3, what you want from this group; number 4, your age, your Chinese sign or your Western sign; number 5 is your status. Are you single, with a partner, married, divorced, a widower, a player, on the market, a father? Number 6 is your sexuality, whether you're gay, straight, bi, something in between, or generally, whatever it is you feel you need to say right now. Number 7 is your favourite piece of clothing, or label, or brand, or gadget. Number 8 is the last time you ejaculated. Number 9 is your greatest fear right now. Number 10 is what you hate the most right now. Number 11 is what you love the most right now. And number 12 is I am. And you can complete that sentence with whatever springs to mind in the moment. So let me tell you a little bit about what's behind the 12 questions of the check-in round. So the first one's obvious: my name is. People can lie about their name, change their name, use a different name, a pet name, whatever it is. That's fine. It's not so much about them saying what their name is, it's more about them checking in and taking their space. Another funny thing about people's names is people can judge people by their name. Is he Muslim? Is he posh? Number 2 is I feel. Now, sometimes in the check-in round, people say I feel and they tell you about what they think. I feel thoughtful. I feel disconcerted, rather than a true feeling of I feel scared, or I feel excited, or I feel apprehensive. So it might be worth getting into and letting the men drop into a feeling rather than a thought or a description or a performance to answer the question right and move on. What I want from this group for me is fundamentally important, because that way not only do I know what people want, but people can be very clear about what they want and take ownership for getting their needs met. And at some stage in the group I will remind people that it's up to them to be clear about their needs and take ownership of their needs and ensure that these needs are met. The next one is my age, my Chinese sign and my Western sign. The reason I've got age there is so people can gauge who's in the room and see whether they're amongst people of their own age group, or whether they're older, whether they're younger, and to just notice how they fit in. All the projections and thoughts about the other men, this check-in round is to flush them all out so people can be present with themselves and each other rather than being distracted by I wonder this and I wonder that. The reason I've got Chinese and Western astrological signs there, more than anything, is to piss people off, because this is an opportunity for them to think, well, that's a bit silly, I don't believe in this, what's this nonsense, what is this place? And they'll probably get a little bit more confident, and that will give them an opportunity to step up in the group and think, well, I'm not believing this, or what is this? And they'll take more space and stop trying to play right with the rules. The next one is about status. Single, married, with a partner, divorced, widower, player, on the market, a father, etc. You get to know some quick details, and you get to see a character of a person and his relationship to this part of his story. So after status, we drop one deeper and we go into sexuality. Some people might say it's quite a heavy one to suddenly drop in a check-in round. For me, it's an opportunity for people to say what the world sees them as, and maybe thoughts, feelings, what they identify as, or maybe they just come out with what they expect people to hear, or maybe it's finally this is out in the open and I can tell people and people aren't going to wonder if I'm gay because I'm not, but everyone always thinks I am. What's interesting is sometimes people use the men's groups, and people even use the check-in rounds, as some sort of a confessional, or some sort of a, this is what once happened when I was 7 years old. So it's out of the way and they can be present with who they are right now. So the next one's my favourite piece of clothing or label or gadget. This is basically thrown in there to normalise safety and to talk about something day to day that might give quite a telltale insight about someone, whether they are really into their expensive brands or they're really handy because they've got some handy penknife that's always with them, if they're into music, if they're into computers and gadgets, if they're into Paul Smith clothes, or if none of this matters to them at all. It's another statement of this is who I am. So the next question is the last time I ejaculated. There are two main reasons that I ask this question. One is to rattle some cages, get people a little bit uncomfortable, get people in alignment with their truth, or will they lie, in touch with their shame, in touch with sex and sexuality issues. The other one is to really open the door to talk about health issues, and it could be sexual health, it could be physical health, it could be emotional health. It's allowed people to talk about that, what's up for them. The next question after the ejaculation cage rattler is right here and right now, what's your greatest fear? It might be a fear that they carry on with them all day, every day. It might be something that's just crossed their minds right now. The next question is I hate. A lot of people come in with the hate is a very strong word, hate is not very spiritual, I don't hate, I might get angry and dislike things. So very often there is a relationship to the word hate and also an indication of where this person's coming from and what rules this person has with themselves with such things. Beyond that, people will talk about things that make them angry, or things that they're scared of, or things that really limit them somehow, and the hatred of the limitation or a situation they're in. So it's another one that really opens things up and gives clues about who they are, where they're coming from, and probably where they've blocked. I love gives everyone an opportunity to share the bliss in their life. Some will be automatic pilot, I love my wife, my kids and my dog. Some might be honest enough to say, I love apple pie, or I love a damn good meal, or I love lying naked in the sunshine. Whatever it is, again, it's what are their primary relationships, what are the things that give them a break in life, what are the things they look forward to the most in their lives, but it's an expression of openness. So they're coming to the end of the journey of the check-in round, and it's like, and this is who I am, and these are the things that bring me alive. The last one is I am. It's been said that I am are the two most powerful words in the English language. And whatever it is that follows these words generally dictate to the world not only this is who I feel I am, but this is what I demand the world meets me at. Sometimes people stop with I am. I just am. So it opens things up, and it's a great indication about where they're coming from and ultimately what they believe or where they want to move towards. The strange thing about the check-in round is, as everyone reads it, even before we're halfway through the check-in round, all the fantasies of other people and even the judgments of other people seems to just fall aside. And by the time we've done the check-in round, suddenly people kind of, there's the gauge of, am I the only gay? Am I the only straight? Am I the only retired? Am I the only married? Am I the only father? Whatever it is. Everyone gets on the same side. Suddenly, we're a body of men who've just said, this is who we are, this is what's going on, and then it's, what do we have in common? How can we learn from each other? How can we share our stories in a place where they're not going to be dramatised, where everyone can learn from them, and how can we move forward in our lives together? So it takes the separation away, just in the check-in round. It takes all the fantasies away, and we're in together. We're in. Once everyone's checked in, then it's back to me. I open it and I hold the space so everyone can take part, and everyone takes ownership of the group. And then we look at what we have in common, what would serve everyone, what people would like to hear other people talk about, their successes and failures, so they can learn from each other's experiences. And if there are one or two people with specific needs, then I make sure that they know that they need to take ownership of these needs, and that they can come in after maybe the first round or something. So we're not totally in the face of someone in the beginning of a group. So for us all to discuss, for example, our key relationships, or what it is that's causing us pain, or whatever it is, or causing us joy at the moment, we all get to check in on something, and then we can get more individual. I need to remind them that their needs, just because they've stated them, are not the group's and not mine, but theirs to take care of, as it is in daily life. So know your needs, state your needs, and within the group, get your needs met. When I first started running these groups, and I guess I was less confident about hearing what's in the room and what people want and addressing these things, I got a list of, I don't know, 100 questions, 100 things that could be anything ranging from my father, my mother, I am scared of, the last time I cried, who changed me or came to me when I was crying as a baby, whatever the questions are. And the objects of the exercise for the questions are to pick something from the bag. Everyone answers the same question, reminding everyone that they can say pass if they want to, and the questions passed around. And it's interesting to hear people's different relationship to the same issue, and it opens it up for people to explore their relationship with something compared to someone else. When someone dominates the group and the space is being taken that other people need as well, and they clearly have a need. I guess my first job is to find out what their need is, and for them to be clear what their need is, and then we're at the core of the issue rather than the big story around the issue. Very often the big story can be a need for attention, or an avoidance of feeling, or a justification, or whatever it is. But all these things very often disengage and go into the head, and people go off in la-la land rather than being connected and present with the story, with what's really going on. I feel it's up to me to hold the space and get right in there, rather than going off on some discussions or mind trip. I don't have a code of conduct, apart from my own code of conduct, but I do have a legal duty of care. If anyone, especially a minor, is going to be harmed in any way, that the police is told. In men's groups, it is a confidential space, and men have talked about the most intimate, vulnerable, scary, on the edge things. As far as I'm concerned, everything can be talked about in a group, and it's up to me to receive and normalise rather than be seen in any way to judge or react or have a take on things. Managing time has been one of the biggest challenges for me. In the early days, I took it on myself that I need to make sure that everyone has enough time, everyone needs a met, no one's kind of interrupted if they're in flow, etc., etc. That's one way of doing it. That's a very uncomfortable, full of pressure, being in the middle way of doing it. And I invite the men in the group to take shared responsibility, not only about managing time, but also about choosing how to manage time. Some groups like to say, okay, we've checked in, we've got 1.5 hours, split between 9 people is X number of minutes each, so let's do that. Some people like to just play it by ear. It's up to the group how the people in the group, the men in that specific group, choose to manage time. My job now is to give time checks. By the way, we've got 1 hour left and we've only done 2 people. Or, by the way, my clock is going to chime every half hour, so we're all aware of time. Some people, some so-called group leaders, like to be the invisible one that no one knows anything about, and let the whole group fantasize or decide or project that the group leader's perfect and everyone wants to be like them. I feel it's a lot more useful to take part in the group and to use my experiences or something I've learned from other men or something I've watched on TV, whatever it is, to say, this might be helpful. I'm not shy or scared of using myself and my story to take part in the group the same as other people. In fact, sometimes I might make myself vulnerable and use my story to say, this is where I'm going, this is where it's safe for us all to meet, and then everyone else has permission to join me in that place of truth, honesty, vulnerability, and someone might take it further, someone might go deeper. It's not whoever has the best story will be the most popular. It's a place of sharing, it's a place of permission, it's a place of experimentation, and it's a place of finding out who I am right now and who I no longer need to be out in the world. A lot of men's groups use talking sticks, where whoever has the stick talks, and talks for as long as he wants to talk generally, unless there's a time limit, and everyone else quietly listens. That's fine. A lot of groups run that way. I like my groups to be as similar to daily life and a place to practice boundaries, etiquette, communication, etc. So we're better at it and more efficient and more true to ourselves in daily life. I remember who is speaking and who we're talking about, and if anyone has a question or anyone has a story or it goes to another man in the room, then that's fine, because that way we can explore taking the energy and the attention from one to another, and come back. If other people don't remember who to come back to and when, then it's up to me as the facilitator to remember who I'm with and what's going on. So we do ask questions, we do interrupt, we do speak on top of each other, but it's not in a frenzied competition, it's more in an intimate taking part and a gentle sharing. Rather than rules, there's an experimentation and flow of boundaries. And after my first year or two of running men's groups, I felt like I'd failed because, especially in an open group, everyone would look at me and talk to me, and it's almost like I was the leader, or I was the authority, or I was the boss somehow. There was a hierarchy. The reason that people look at me rather than look at each other is it's not generally normal in society for people to look in each other's eyes. It's rare that men look at each other face to face. Very often, a man looking another man in the eye will either be, I want to fight you, or I want to fuck you. It's confrontational. So the avoidance of that intimacy, normally people would speak to the so-called authority, to the central figure, even when they're addressing the whole group. It's fine to notice that maybe there's a hierarchical projection going on, and then maybe belittle, maybe make a bit of a, not necessarily a joke of myself, but to just step down so there's space for other people to step up. In order to hold the space for a clean group, I need to be very clear for myself that I'm not dominating the group, so people aren't giving me all their power, so I call the shots and I'm the boss. And also that I'm not being overly passive, so it's a free-for-all, and maybe the loudest or the strongest or the neediest or whatever is dominating the group. For me, it's about holding the space so it's as equal and as open and as safe as possible. Now, if people give me the power and expect me to judge things and direct things, then the way that I'd share that power would be to ask questions. So it's open it up with questions and pass it around the room. It's not up to me to keep bringing things up and pushing people. It's up to me to hold the space and allow things to unfold at the speed and in the safety of every man present. For me, to be a good facilitator, it's be silent, it's listen, it's allow a man his journey and his lessons without poking and pushing and preempting, and allowing the space for it to open. I generally, during a group, will ask for time checks. So rather than just discreetly looking at my phone or looking at my watch, which I used to do, I'll ask out loud, and then everyone knows what the time is. Everyone can evaluate, have they had their space? Do they want to take their space? Are they dominating the space, and how's the space being shared? If after a time check it's still being hogged by someone, or someone hasn't said a lot and obviously has stuff to say, then I might just say, let's check where we are with time and the space that everyone's taking, and do we wish to change this in relationship to how much time we have and the people's needs in the room. I liked there to be 5 minutes at the end for us to do a checkout round. This is kind of like, okay, rounding it off and getting ready to stop and then go back out into the world. Once we've done the checkout, generally in those 2 minutes, I know that I just consolidate myself, what's been going on in the group, and prepare for my journey home. It's like a closing down, gratitude, and then I ring the bell at the end of the 2 minutes. I walk towards the light, switch it on, and say thank you. Job done. At the end of a group, I generally encourage men to stay in touch with themselves and their feelings and who they were in the group, out in daily life. I would also invite people to communicate with whoever they want to in the group, whether they exchange numbers or not. They can communicate with each other through the website. I also let them know that if someone communicates with them, they're not obliged to respond. So people need to be true to their own boundaries, and I let them know that if they communicate with me, that I will respond. Once men are open and they've shared themselves, and maybe they've had some different perspectives, or something shifted, or something's changed, they might leave feeling great, and they might hit a downer for being isolated, or for their old life not having space for who they are in or are growing into in their new life. Men are known for isolating. Men are known for maybe opening up and then closing down and being separate again. So this is an invitation to stay connected, communicate after the group, come to further groups and be part of the community.